Hi there. Welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we're strengthening the back, reaffirming the core connection, improving our posture, improving our alignment so that we don't look and feel like spineless invertebrates. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify if you need to, rest as often as need be. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class coming into a prone position. Make your way down onto the belly. Legs are soft and relaxed in parallel behind you, and the arms are draped long and lengthened on the floor in front of you. Relax your forehead down to the mat. And just take a couple of deep breaths here, trying to lengthen through the whole body. Arms, legs, and spine beautifully long and draped on the mat. Take a few soft breaths here. And then gently begin to extend through the arms, maybe floating the arms just off the mat while keeping your forehead softly connected to the mat. Now gently begin lifting the legs off the mat. Belly and hips softly digging into the mat as you reach as long as you can through the fingertips and the toes, not shooting for height off the mat, but rather making length and a stretching motion your aim. Then gently reconnect to the mat. Take a soft recovery breath or two. Keeping those arms long and lengthened on the mat in front of you, palms looking down into the mat, we're going to begin mobilizing through the spine and find a baby cobra line. Find an imaginary marble underneath your nose. Begin rolling that marble away from you towards the top end of the mat. Push softly off your palms. Start with maybe your bottom 2 or 3 ribs nice and heavy into the mat and push off your palms. Then nod back down to your start position. You're going to do that maybe 4 or 5 times. And every time you peel up into the baby cobra line, maybe try to lift one more rib off the mat. So maybe starting with 4 ribs on the mat. And then each time you peel up, you try to come up 1 rib higher. Keeping your gaze softly on the floor, just in front of your fingertip line as you find the full expression. Almost a soft nodding-like motion through the head. And then end for me in a baby cobra line, mini bhujangasana, with just the bottom ribs still touching the mat. You're pushing softly off those palms, and if the back is strong enough, you may be beginning to hover your hands just off the mat. So relying more on your back muscles and the spine to support the frame. Now swim or scoop the arms alongside the body, back of the hands looking down towards the mat, palms looking up while holding that chest lift, and float softly back down to the mat. As you reconnect to the mat, slide onto one cheek and just take a recovery breath or two, trying to relax the spine, but still thinking length through the whole spine. Ease your way softly back onto the forehead and focus on your legs. Bring the 2 legs flush along the midline of the body. Start pressing actively into the tops of your toes, the tops of your feet, the tops of your thighs. And just press down and hold, maybe for a few soft counts. Pressing actively through the legs. Your forehead is still connected to the mat. Your whole chest is still connected to the mat, and the arms are still heavy into the mat. Focus on squeezing the legs together and then actively pressing down into the mat and holding that press. Then relax the legs and slide onto your opposite cheek, just relaxing your whole body into the mat. Make your way back onto the forehead. Actively squeeze the legs together and down and begin to peel up in your chest lift. Back of the hands are still connected to the mat. Try to rely on your back muscles to hold that frame for a few soft counts. If you can, hold a baby cobra line with just the bottom ribs still connected to the mat. If the back is not strong enough, maybe 2 or 3 ribs connected to the mat. Heel softly back down, begin to soften the legs. Slide onto one cheek and just take a soft butter melting rest into the mat. Find your way back onto the forehead. Actively squeeze the legs together and down and place your palms on the backs of your thighs. Then peel up into the chest lift and hold. The legs are actively squeezing together and pressing down into the mat as we begin to prepare for snake pose. It looks a lot like a cobra, but the active leg pattern is slightly different. Melt gently back down to the mat. Roll onto one cheek. And just take a few butter melting moments here into the mat. Let's see if we can find our way into the full expression. Find your way back onto the forehead. Actively press the legs together and push down using your quads and as much of the tops of your feet as you can. Peel up into the chest lift and see if you can interlace the hands loosely behind you, almost squaring up through the wrist line. Actively press down into the mat with your legs. The legs are flush along the midline. You're trying to maintain the chest lift while reaching long through your hands, almost as if you were trying to hook over the back edge of your mat. Hold the stretch. Uninterlace your hands, soften the legs, and peel back down to the mat. Resting onto one cheek, melt yourself one last time into the mat. Spine long, soft, and relaxed. Ease your way back onto the forehead. Keep your hands alongside the body, palms looking up to the ceiling, and float your legs into a comfortable parallel line on the mat behind you. Find that imaginary marble underneath your nose. Begin to roll it away from you to the front of the mat and peel up into your chest lift. Bottom ribs still connected to the mat. Now float the arms up so that they're hovering at about shoulder height. See if you can maintain the chest and arm lift using your back strength, and then float the legs off the mat. Don't bend and bow shape. Rather think of just extending those legs, almost as if you were trying to tap the wall behind you. Hold the frame, full locust, or you can begin to gently swim and scoop the arms, floating them overhead, almost pretending that you're trying to propel yourself through a body of water by actively pushing with the hands. Keeping the bow frame. If the bow frame is too much for you, you can drop down closer to the mat, giving me more of a Superman line with your nose and your legs maybe hovering just off the mat. Then peel your way back down to the mat. As your forehead reconnects to the mat, bend the elbows and place the palms alongside your bosom. Keep the elbows tucked in. Keeping your legs soft and relaxed on the mat behind you. So tops of your feet are connected to the mat. You're going to push back into a parallel child. As you think bum to heel, I want you to almost find a little cat stretch here. So round out your back, almost pushing off your hands, and then relax back to neutral. Give me a few child-cat hybrids here. Hollowing out your belly, rounding out your back, pausing for a beat or two, and then relaxing through the back and the spine. Maybe your nose is hovering just off the mat. Then gently look off the front of the mat and begin to slide your body forward, finding your way into puppy pose, actively pushing down into the palms, thinking of trying to connect your chin and your chest to the mat while keeping your lower belly quite close to the tops of your thighs, bum is piped up towards the sky. Hold, getting a nice stretch into the shoulders and a little bit of work into the upper back. Then relax down through the elbows and find your way into Sphinx pose. Sliding the elbows forward slightly, making sure that they're stacking underneath your armpits, pushing the mat away with your palms and just trying to grow the spine up towards the sky. Hold. Make sure you're not collapsing the front of your ribs into the mat. Then gently reconnect to the mat, and as you do so, begin to slide your fingertips back and end with your fingertips towards the bottom end of the rib cage as we prepare for swan. Legs are soft and relaxed on the mat and parallel behind you. Connect your forehead to the mat. Find an imaginary marble underneath your nose. Begin to roll the marble towards the front of the mat. Articulate slowly, one rib at a time, and stop with your bottom 3 ribs nice and heavy into the mat. Squeeze the elbows softly towards the midline, and then try to lengthen your elbow points towards the back end of the mat and look for as much length in the spine as you can. Stay here or begin to come up really slowly and with control. That's where the strengthening happens into your swan. Peel your bottom rib off the mat and rest on your belly button. Start to extend up a little bit further, resting on the 2 hip bones. Further still, resting on your pubic bone. Further still, resting on the tops of your thighs. Further still, resting on your kneecaps with the heels of your hands stacking underneath your armpits, and try to find the longest swan neckline that you can comfortably forge. Hold. Beautiful back strengthening pose. You're going to come down with the same amount of control that you used to come up. Begin to soften through the elbows and connect just the tops of your thighs. Pause. Now connect your pubic bone. Connect the 2 hip bones. Connect your belly button. Connect the bottom rib. Connect the bottom 3 ribs. The rest of the ribs follow as you articulate back down to your start position. You're either going to articulate up and down one more time slowly, or you're going to work a pistoning motion by pushing all the way up into the full expression and then coming all the way down, bending the elbows and lifting up the feet behind you as you come down to the mat, so that you start rocking in a bow-like fashion, pistoning the arms up and down. Exhaling as you come down, inhaling as you come up. Beautiful little back strengthening rock. Let's do 2 more. And then after your last one, as you come down after your last one, tuck the toes under, push back into child, Thinking bum to heel, toes are tucked under, so you're stretching into the feet. Hold that stretch, breathing nice and deeply into the back of your ribs. Then gently looking off the front of your mat, maybe slide the hands back slightly as if you wanted to come into a 4-point kneeling frame. Begin to lift your knees up off the mat so you're in quite an aggressive relaxed dog. And then find down dog. Begin to play between the down dog frame and the relaxed dog. Knees are quite close to the floor. Your lower belly is trying to press into the tops of your thighs. And then begin to extend the legs and drop down through the back chain of the heels. Play between the two frames for a few rounds. Every time you hit the down dog frame, you give me a nice exhale and you try to anchor through the back of the heels as best you can. End in a down dog frame and try to hold the stretch. Try to anchor through the whole foot as best you can. Almost feed your head through your hands as if you were trying to tap your nose towards your knees. Shoot for a long line through the spine, tailbone to the nape of your neck. Then bend the knees gently and find your way into a 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. We're going to play in cat-cow. Inhale to prepare, taking your chin and your bum bones to the sky, hollowing out the back and stretching into the lower belly. And then exhale to round out, stretching into the shoulders and the lower back. And don't rush your cat-cow today. Give me a slow, maybe 1 to 2 inhalation to exhalation ratio. Shooting for that work through the spine. Reaffirming that core connection, both as you round out and as you hollow and stretch into the belly. You're going to find your way from here into a long tabletop line. So somewhere between your cat and your cow. Not dropping your head. Keep trying to forge a long line through the neck and the spine. Pushing the mat strongly away. Keeping your core connection by pulling that belly button into center. Begin to slide the right arm out in front of you as far as you can. Pause. Now slide the left leg out. In unison, float the arm and the leg up so that you're forging a long tabletop line through the arm, the neck, the back, and the leg. Try not to kick up that back leg too high. I want you to shoot for about hip height. Try to tap the ball in front of you and the ball behind you. Remember which hand is still connected to the mat. As you find your way back to your tap out position and draw back to 4-point kneeling, float the hand that was anchoring you, in this case the left hand, up towards the sky. Take a big stretch here. Shooting for a soft T-frame through the arms. Hold that stretch. On an active exhale, thread underneath your right armpit as you come to Sukhi Randasana. Back of the hand caresses the mat. Come to rest on your left cheek. Staying here with your right hand on the floor. Or if your core connection is nice and strong and you've managed to maintain your stack of hips over knees, see if you can sweep the right arm up to the sky. Reaching for a second or two. Think long fingertips. Try and stretch out through the shoulders. And then bend that right arm. Reach opposite hand to hip. Try to get a little bit more rotation through the shoulder and the upper back. maybe gently peeking up towards the sky, while maintaining that stack of hips over knees, core activated, trying to hold the majority of your body weight in the core and not lean it all into the mat. Then bleed your way back to a 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Step your legs back one leg at a time and come into a strong plank hold with your body line as parallel to the mat as you can manage. Strong core, legs are active, front and back. You're strong through the shoulders. Then relax to the knees. Begin to slide the arms on the mat in front of you and find your way back to puppy pose. Almost thinking of trying to connect your chin and your chest to the mat while looking softly off the front of your mat. Lower belly quite close to the tops of your thighs. Now tuck the toes under. Slide back slightly and find your child pushback. So now you are resting with your lower belly on the tops of your thighs. And you're giving me a soft relax of your forehead down to the mat. Maybe even connecting to your third eye. Then slide your hands in slightly closer. Float the knees up off the floor in quite a relaxed down dog. Then pike up into the full expression and begin moving between a really low, relaxed dog, knees and maybe shins hovering just off the floor with your lower belly quite close to the tops of your thighs. Then pike your bum up to the sky as you extend the legs, trying to anchor through the heels of your feet as best you can. Give me a few oscillations between your relaxed down dog and the full expression. Maybe beginning to slide your feet in closer towards your nose line as the back chain of the legs starts to warm up so that you can really enjoy that stretch. End in the down dog frame and hold for a few soft counts here. Trying to pike up your bum towards the sky. Try to forge a long line from your tailbone towards the nape of your neck. Crown of your head is heavy towards the floor. Nose is floating towards your kneecaps. Belly button is firmly pulled into center. Then maybe ease your way onto the tips of your fingers and slowly begin to walk your feet forward, coming into a soft forward fold. Preferably both hands on the floor if you can manage it, and just holding the stretch here. If that's not going to happen for you, maybe a block on the mat underneath your hands, or maybe hands on your shin bones, or maybe on the tops of your thighs. Close your eyes, take your focus in, make your crown nice and heavy to the floor. Try to have the weight bearing relatively equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. Shoot for a long line through the spine. Then look towards your feet, which should be in a parallel line, and see if you can begin to softly splay them out. You can wiggle the feet as wide apart as you need to come down into a deep squat line. Maybe using wide hands on the floor to use your triceps and maybe the back of your elbows to open up your inner thighs. Or maybe you'd just like to make a little cactus frame through the arms, or you could even bring your hands into prayer mudra and actively use those elbow points to open up the knees. Pause here, making sure that you're bringing the weight down evenly towards the mat on both sides of the spine. So you're thinking of making yourself heavy from the shoulders down through the top back towards the lower back. Bum bones become heavy to the mat. And then using hands on the floor behind you or no hands, you're going to sit down on the bum and you're going to extend the legs in front of you, coming into staff pose, Dandasana. Begin sitting up nice and tall with your legs in parallel and shoot for a nice tall seat so you're not hollowing out and hanging off your tailbone. Move the bum flesh out the way. Sit up nice and tall, grounding through your bum bones with your hands maybe either relaxed on the tops of your thighs, or you could even place your fingertips on the mat alongside you. Try to draw the energy up from the kneecaps along your quads while maintaining that tall stack, and then pull energy up from your pelvic floor towards your waistline and see if you can hover the heels off the floor, holding maybe for a soft count of 5 or 10 counts. Keep your feet active, so send energy out through the whole sole of your feet. Those heels are floating off the floor. You've pulled and drawn up along the quads, and you're pulling energy up all the way from the kneecaps towards your chest line. Then relax the feet. Place the hands on the mat alongside your fingertips looking towards the top end of the mat. We're going to come into a table hold. Draw your hands back, giving me a little L lean off the center line. Bend your knees, connect the soles of your feet, keep your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart, and start to float your belly up towards the sky, coming into a little tabletop line and trying to keep your chin line in neutral. You can gently sway the weight back and forth and then try to come to stillness with the weight bearing equal on your arms and your legs, and try to hold for a few soft counts. Legs are active, glutes are active. Then soften the bum back down to the mat and come back into your original staff position on the mat. Either fingertips on the floor or beginning on the tops of your thighs. Activate that draw from the kneecap. Float your heels off the floor and see if you can float the arms out in front, palms looking into the center line, while maintaining that heel lift. Your active thighs, the quads are drawing up and pulling up all the way through the pelvic floor towards your chest line. Then as you relax back down to the mat, place your fingertips looking out towards the side of the room on either side of the body. We're going to come back into table, changing up the hand position. Slide your hands back, find your little L lean off the spine. Make sure your feet are hip-width distance apart. Bend the knees. Keep your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart as you push up into that tabletop line, and try to get a feel for how different the arms feel when you just change the hand position as you come into table. Try to hold for a few soft counts, trying to keep your weight bearing equal on the arms and the legs. And then ease your way softly back down to the mat. Find your way back into staff pose. This time, as you float the heels off the floor, see if you can bring the arms overhead. So your arms are thinking of framing the ears on either side. Your heels are floating off the mat. Feet are active. Energy is squeezing together between the inner thighs, and you're pulling up energy all the way from the tops of your kneecaps along the quads through the lower belly, pulling up all the way through your belly center towards your chest center. Float softly back down to the mat. As you come back down to the mat, see if you can gently just fold forward into Paschimottanasana. Maybe the arms are softly connecting to the mat, maybe forearms on the mat, or maybe just resting your forearms on the top of your thighs or your shins. Give yourself a recovery breath or two here. And then peel back up. This time, as you find your way into staff pose. See if you can float your hands overhead. Heels are coming up off the floor and bend at the elbows. So you're giving me a little cactus frame. Try to keep the elbows aligned with your shoulders. Then float your hands overhead as if you wanted to tap the index fingers and the thumbs together and push back actively into that little cactus position. The whole time you're keeping your heels floating off the mat. So you're drawing up energy along the quads, along the lower belly. You're maintaining that high seat. So strengthening your back muscles, improving your posture. Then soften back down to the mat. This time, fingertips looking away from you. Walk your hands back. Bend the knees. Float up into your tabletop. This time, you've got the hands looking to the back of the mat. Slide your weight back and forth. Come to stillness with the weight bearing equal on the arms and the legs. And peel softly back down to the mat. As you reconnect to the mat, you're going to find your way into Paschimottanasana, that forward fold. So maybe hands on the tops of your thighs, maybe hands on the floor, or slide them along the legs and see if you can maybe reach around the undercarriage of your feet. You could use a belt or a strap to help you make that connection, and just hold the stretch for a few soft counts. Trying to make your chest nice and heavy to the tops of your thighs while breathing as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs. Draping yourself softly over the feet. Peel your way back up into staff pose. Begin to draw the heels off the floor. Float the arms out in front, fingertips touching in front. And then exhale as you bend through the elbows, almost coming into a scarecrow-like pose, and then tap the two fingertips, or the four fingertips rather, in front of you. Trying to keep those heels floating off the floor, so the tops of your thighs are active, your back muscles and your spine are working hard to keep you seated up nice and tall with your shoulders stacked over your hips. Your core is working hard to support the frame, so the whole girdle working beautifully. Then relax back down to the mat, this time making a fist with your hands, thumbs looking in towards your hip line. We're going to ease our way into table one last time. Draw your fists back. Give me a little L lean off the center. You're going to bend the knees. You're going to gently push up into your tabletop line and hold as steady as you can. Every time you're coming into the table, you're trying to find more stability through the back. Trying to make sure that your weight bearing is equal on the arms and the legs. Then easing yourself softly back down to the mat. Find staff pose and then come back into your forward fold. Maybe this time trying to interlace the hands, invert them. You can bring the legs closer together along the midline and then try to hook around your feet and hold your forward fold. Breathing as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs while you make your nose and your chest nice and heavy to the tops of your thighs. Give yourself a few deep breaths here. Getting a nice stretch into the shoulders and the back. Then peel up from here into easy sit, Sukhasana. Bending the left leg first and stacking the right leg in front of the left. Brace against your front leg, so maybe the left hand cupping the top of your right foot and the right hand just holding onto the shin bone. We're going to come into a seated cat-cow. On an inhale, you're going to pull the leg in as you try to curve through the spine and open up your chest, your throat, and your third eye to the sky. On the exhale, you're going to Ease up on that hold. You're going to allow your elbows to float slightly wider. You're going to hollow out your belly and round out your back. You're going to give me a few seated cat-cows. So just a little play on Chakrabakasana cat-cow. Ease your way to neutral. Take a little twist towards the left, cupping opposite hand to the back of the thigh. Inhale, bleed back to center. Exhale, take it to the other side. Ease your way softly back to center, and then just give me a soft little forward fold. Maybe just walking forward as far as you can, connecting to the forearms if you can. And just think of pushing off your forearms and sinking your whole spine and your back line back towards the back edge of the mat. Keeping your belly button softly pulled into center. Peel up into a nice high seat. And extend the right leg out in front of you, placing the sole of the left foot on the inseam of the right leg. Just give me a soft forward fold, and maybe that forward fold for you is just sliding forward, resting on the top of your thigh, maybe hands on the floor. Maybe you've managed to hook around that foot, or maybe you'd like to try that interlaced and inverted hook around the foot one more time as you think of softly folding forward. Just try to get a nice stretch into the back. Breathe as deeply as you can into the back and the sides of your ribs. Keep your belly button gently pulled into center. Then gently peel up and tuck into the half lotus line from here if you can. If the half lotus line is not happening for you, just come back into easy sit. Otherwise, reach for the right foot and try to bring the right heel as close to the inside of the left hip bone as you can, resting the top of your right foot on the top of your left thigh. Try to get a sense of the weight being equal on both sides of the spine. So shoulders are even and the hips and the pelvis is as even as you can, holding that forward fold. Softly bring it into a forward fold once more. You could place a block on the floor in front of you if the floor is not your friend today, and maybe just find a stacked position that could work for you. Just take your focus inward. Enjoy the stretch. Breathe nice and deeply into the back of your ribs. Try to get a nice little stretch into the whole back chain. Then bleed gently up and bring it into a soft twist. Twisting off center to one side, grabbing opposite hand to the outside of the thigh. Inhale and come back to center. Exhale to twist to the other side, grabbing opposite hand to the outside of your thigh. Maintaining a nice tall spine with the weight bearing equal on both sides of your spine. So try not to lean your body weight off center. Peel your way back to center. Extend the right leg out in front of you and keeping the left leg bent but knee looking up towards the ceiling, hug that knee in towards your chest. So you're twisting towards the top leg in a modified Mariachiasana, trying to keep that sense of length through the spine and try to notice what you're doing with your weight. Are you throwing your weight off to one side and leaning into one bum bone? If you are, try to connect to your inner gyroscope and even out your body weight distribution. Then try to twist in the opposite direction, placing the left elbow on the inside of the knee, push and resist, maybe extending the arm out in front or dropping the fingertips to the mat and try to take the twist in the opposite direction, maintaining that equal weight on your bum bones, using the fingertips of your right hand to just softly prop up your spine nice and tall, So you're pushing off nice spider fingertips, trying to give you the longest spine that you can comfortably forge. And then ease your way from here into a wide seated straddle, opening up your legs into a little V shape. You're going to open up as wide or as narrow as you're comfortable with, bracing actively into your feet. You're going to give me a soft forward fold. Maybe that means just creeping the hands out in front of you. Maybe that means using your block and finding a stack position. Maybe you're comfortable coming all the way onto the forearms. Maybe you want to stack the palms one on top of the other and bring your chest closer to the mat. Maybe you'd like to walk the arms out and rest your forehead onto the mat, or maybe come to rest on the side of your cheek. Just play with it. Make sure your feet stay active so that you can feel that stretch along the inner thighs as you begin to relax the lower back. And then walk your way back up into a nice high seat. Take a big breath in and twist to one side, grabbing opposite hand to the outer thigh, trying to keep the weight even in your trunk. Inhale, peel back to center. Exhale, twist to the opposite side. Peel your way softly back to center and find Sukhasana, this time leading with the left leg in front of the right. We're going to find our seated cat-cow, bracing against your front leg. You're going to curve the spine as if you were trying to open up your chest, your throat, and your third eye to the sky. And then on the exhale, reverse the frame, hollowing out your belly, rounding out your back. Keep that contraction. So remember, we want to reinforce that core connection so that your whole core, front and back, is working as a unit to strengthen your back, improve your posture. No jelly-like amoebas today. Give yourself a few rounds of your seated cat-cow. And then ease your way into neutral and begin to extend the left leg out in front. Placing the sole of the right foot on the inseam of the left leg, you're going to give me a soft forward fold. So think Janu Sirsasana, head to knee. Maybe just hands on the top of your thighs, hands on the floor. You could use the block on the inside and find a stack position. Maybe you'd like to wrap around the foot. Maybe you'd like to take a little bit more of an active stretch by interlacing the hands, inverting them, and trying to loop or hook around your foot, and then thinking nose to knee. Play with it. Try to get a nice stretch into the back and the shoulders. Try to lengthen the whole spine. Try to make your nose and your chest nice and heavy to the top of the lead leg. And then as you bleed back up, you're going to find your way into the half lotus line, Ardha Padmasana, by bending the left leg, trying to tuck that whole foot as close towards the inside of the opposite hip as you can. And as you find your way into the expression, don't be afraid to wiggle around and check your alignment. Are you nice and even through the shoulders? Are you nice and even through the hips and the pelvis? Then take a soft little forward fold, using a block if you need to. Maybe easing your way onto the forearms, pushing back through your palms and your elbows and trying to sink your hips back evenly on both sides. So try not to lean all of the weight into one side of your body. Peel back up. Take a big breath in and twist off center to one side, grabbing opposite hand to the outside of your thigh. Try to keep that sense of evenness on both sides of your spine. So the weight beautifully distributed between the left and the right side of your body. Inhale to come back. Exhale to twist to the other side. Lead your way back to center and find your way into a Mariachiyasana twist from here. Extend the left leg. Keep the right leg bent, but place the sole of the foot into the floor with the knee looking up to the sky. Then for your first twist, you're going to hug towards your bent leg, trying to hug that knee and that thigh in towards your chest. Trying to keep your extended leg active, so foot's kicking against an imaginary wall, and think of the weight bearing equal into both bum bones. Keep your belly button softly pulled into center and give me the longest spine that you can manage. Then take the twist in the opposite direction, using your right elbow and maybe the tricep to actively push against that leg, squeeze into center, maybe dropping your fingertips to the mat or maybe just reaching the arm out in front. And find a nice tall seat. Beautiful long spine. Give yourself a few quiet moments here in Mariachiyasana. And then unbind and find your way into your wide straddle, opening up those legs nice and wide. You're going to give me a soft forward fold, maybe just fingertips on the mat, maybe walking onto the forearms, maybe splaying the elbows wide and relaxing closer to the mat, or maybe fully extending the arms, maybe coming to rest on the side of your head. Keep your feet active, keep your inner thighs switched on, try to relax the sacrum and the lower back. Just enjoy the stretch. Breathe nice and deeply into the back of your ribs, wherever it is you decide to play today. Then gently walk up, find your way into a seated twist. To one side, grabbing opposite hand to the outer thigh, trying to keep your body weight even on both bum bones, spine nice and tall. Inhale, peel back to center, and exhale to take the twist to the opposite side. Peel your way back to center, maybe ending off your practice today in a wide straddle, or you can bring it to Sukhasana if you prefer. Maybe just bringing it down onto the elbows, bringing your hands together in prayer mudra. Maybe just taking an opportunity to close your eyes and take your focus in for a moment while trying to lengthen through the spine as best you can. Think long line from your tailbone towards the nape of your neck. Giving yourself a few quiet moments here before closing off your practice by tapping your fingertips towards your nose on the words Namaste. Thank you so much for coming out and joining me for today's class. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Remember to shoot me your comments. Make sure your notifications for the channel are on, and be ready to play and work on the mat tomorrow. Till then, keep it light.